Hi everybody. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anna Grimaud and today I'm going to present to you a very famous case from the UK called Purdy against DPP, namely the Director of Public Prosecutions. So there are a lot of ongoing debates around the world about assisted suicide. And in the UK, there have been a number of legal cases brought in an attempt to change the law around this topic, this matter, but they did not succeed. So let's begin with the background of the case. Miss Purdy, the claimant, lives in England and she has multiple sclerosis. It's a degenerative disease which affects your muscle movement, your vision, and also your balance. She had decided that one day her life would become unbearable and she will want to go to Switzerland to end it, where it's lawful. If she did this relatively soon, then she would be able to end her own life. But if she were to wait longer, then her husband would have to help her. And she was concerned that he would be prosecuted for assisted suicide when he returned to the UK. This has not, however, been prosecuted before in similar circumstances, and this is the reason why Miss Purdy asked the Director of Public Prosecutions for guidance as to what factors the prosecution service would use and decided whether to prosecute her husband or not. But the DPP refused to publish any guidance. So let's move on to court proceedings and ruling. The claimant, Mrs. Purdy, claims for judicial review of the decision of the director, but her claim was dismissed by the Divisional Court of the Queen's Bench. In a claim, the applicant said that the defendant had unlawfully failed to provide detailed guidance, but the Court of the Queen's Bench said she couldn't help Mrs. Purdy. So the procedure is actually really fast. The case started with judicial review proceedings in April 2008 and concludes with the House of Lords judgment on the 30th of July of 2009, so less than 15 months later. Before the House of Lords, the appellant relies on two pleas in law in support of her appeal. First, the Director of Public Prosecutions should be required to promulgate a policy. He should identify the facts to be considered in exercising his discretion under the Section 2 of the Suicide Act of 1961, whether to prosecute a person such as the claimant's husband for aiding and abetting an assisted suicide abroad. Second, the criminalization of assisted suicide in the UK constitutes an interference with the Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is the right to respect for private life. And the claimant said it's not proportionate in the absence of any policy setting out the circumstances in which a prosecution will be brought. So what was the ruling of the lords? 5 lords anonymously backed Mrs. Purdy's call for a policy statement from the Director of Public Prosecutions on when someone might face prosecution for helping a loved one end their life abroad. They ruled the Director of Public Prosecutions must specify when a person might face prosecution. The law lords also said she had the right to choose how she died under the Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. The interference mentioned before, in cases of the suicide of a person who is terminally ill or disabled, who wishes to be helped to travel to a country where assisted suicide is legal, and who have the capacity to understand, to take such decision and to understand the consequences, this interference is not in accordance with the law as required by the Article 8, in the absence of an offence-specific policy by the DPP, which sets out the factors that will be taken into account in deciding under Section 2 of the Suicide Act whether to prosecute. Therefore, the DPP was required to promulgate such an offence-specific policy. It was the opinion of the Lords that the code was not precise enough for a person to identify the factors, and consequently, the director was under a duty to clarify his position. Let's have a look. Let's talk about the impact of the case. In 2009, the British Parliament said it would consider an amendment to the Suicide Act that would allow suicide tourism, but by not charging people with assisted suicide when they take their loved ones to another country to kill themselves. Britain has a law banning assisted suicide, but it has not been enforced in those cases. In his guidance, the Director of Public Prosecutions defines when a person could be charged for assisted suicide. The suspect, the first condition, the suspect did an act capable of encouraging or assisting the suicide or attempted suicide of another person. And second of all, the suspect's act was intended to encourage or assist suicide or an attempt at suicide. And in his guidance, the DPP also makes a clear distinction between maliciously encouraging someone to commit suicide and compassionately supporting someone's decision to die. Hope my presentation didn't send you to sleep. Take care, and thank you for watching this presentation. Goodbye.